What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. If you're watching, if you're listening, I'm going to point out right now that we've changed scenery a little bit, so it might look a little different, might sound a little different.
I like it, though.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
This is smooth.
Yeah,
you might hear some background music, might hear some people walking by, and might even see some people if you're watching on YouTube. But with me today, Andrej Suttles,
brother.
the man, the myth, the legend in the flesh, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. You know, I can't complain. Nobody listens.
Yeah. And anybody that does listen, for example, to the podcast, if you've always been wondering how this podcast is possible, Andrej is a really huge part about that. Got to keep getting you in front of the camera and on the mic more often, man. And we're kind of sitting here talking back and forth about the ambition we have and the self-growth that we've been on. And you brought up a really good subject you wanted to talk about, the importance of knowing yourself. Talk about a little bit how important that is to know yourself, because I know you're working on something like that right now.
Yeah, so I'm currently in a 30-day challenge, and it's literally to get to know myself, and for everyone who's following me, who's on the journey with me as well, to get to know yourself. I know it's important when it comes to knowing yourself and being successful. I know that for a fact. We cannot go somewhere if we've never thought about where we want to go or where we've been, right? So, we had this talk earlier with talking about our like getting married and having, your perfect getaway, right? Life, yeah. Just the perfect getaway. What would it be, right? And if you never thought about it, I was telling Ted, like my perfect honeymoon, I'm gonna have to, like, my honeymoon we'll have a bed, and I'm gonna have a hot tub that's in ground, that's about 3 feet away from my bed. So when I roll out, not 4 feet. I told you earlier, not 4 feet. I got short arms now, but when I roll out, I just put my left hand on the ground and transition right into the pool, right? But if I've never literally thought about that versus having a hot tub downstairs in the main lobby, or having a hot tub out on my balcony, or like, I love to swim. That's why I keep saying hot tub, right? I love to be in the water. But if I've never, physically and mentally thought about that and what I want, how can I plan to achieve it, right? Versus just setting that dream to go to Hawaii.
It's almost like knowing yourself can help breed confidence.
Oh my goodness! You gotta go to the first episode of my 30-day challenge. Yeah, it's the very first thing I say it does.
If anybody,
the number one thing it does.
If anybody's listening right now, make sure you follow Andrej Suttles on Instagram.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Andrej Suttles page. We're doing a 30-day challenge right now. Literally, get you a notebook, and we're going through 30 prompts that are gonna generate you and promote you and motivate you to literally get to know yourself, know what you want and where you want to go.
So confidence, that's one of them, and we can dive in that deeper in a little bit, but what other benefits does knowing yourself give you?
I mean, knowing ourselves, it definitely, for one, it helps us know what we like and what we don't like, right? Here, I'm gonna move this because it's kind of blocking me. All right, cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good? All right, cool. So one thing it does is it helps us know what we like and what we don't like. For instance, if we do know what we like and what we don't like, it's going to make it not extremely easier, but a lot easier for us to say no when it comes to things as far as a career path, right? For me, for example, I know that if I don't work out in the morning, I'm probably not going to work out in the afternoon. That's just the type of clients I work with. Everyone seems to be more free in the afternoon. I get a lot more busier in the afternoon. So for me, I know for a fact I will not accept a job before 7 a.m. Like, I can't go to the gym, spend that time in there. Now, I can do it every once in a while, occasionally. It's not to say that I can't do this occasionally, but for the type of lifestyle that I want to live, to know knowing myself, if I don't work out in the morning, I'm not going to work out. And you have to work out to, the 6 F's, right?
Yeah.
The 6 F's, you have to work out to make sure, everything is in full cycle. So, moving forward, it's going to help us when it comes to making decisions. You know your views. You know why you have those views, especially if you know yourself. I don't know. There's a couple more for sure.
Plethora, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, when it comes to the confidence aspect, I'm sure we've all seen those people that walk into a room and, man, I don't care if we're in the middle of the ocean. If that person's trying to sell me water, I'll probably buy some more.
You're gonna buy, right?
And the confidence is a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, building that confidence is definitely important for anybody who has those goals personally to bet on themselves a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of people, fear comes from not knowing what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
If you have confidence in yourself and you're willing to bet on yourself, that reduces the fear a little bit, because it's almost like
you're confident that you can control that situation.
we're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking about this one quote or this one kind of concept a lot lately about the bird on the branch, and how I'm finally feeling like I'm a bird. And what I mean by that is you see a bird sitting on the branch, and the bird looks comfortable. The bird looks like it's just chilling. And everyone's like, oh man, that bird must be so confident in the strength of that branch. No, it's not. If that branch would have snapped, the bird's not worried, because it has confidence in its wings. It has confidence in its own ability to fly. So no matter what happens, the bird's comfortable on the branch because it believes in its own ability. And I think the same thing happens when someone has their confidence. If they're wanting to do maybe a dance recital, or try out for that local play, or
Open a business.
apply for that job you've been wanting to get, or quit that job you've been working to put more effort into your side business. Whatever it might be, I think confidence is the first step, and to get that first step, you got to know yourself.
And it really boils down ultimately to knowing yourself is knowing your value, knowing your worth. That's kind of why I started this 30-day challenge. Was there's people who I interact with on a daily basis, who follow me on a daily basis, where they don't know their worth, literally don't know their worth based off what other people have told them. They're so used to what other people like for them, right?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to get this 9-to-5 job that pays well because I did computer science in programming. I don't like computer science. It was just a vehicle that got me through college.
Yeah.
Right? But how do I know that if I don't know myself? I don't really like computer science. I like money, and computer science can provide money. But is there another vehicle that I can take that I like that'll provide me the same amount of money? Yes.
Sure. And you just have to know how to execute that and exploit that, if you would. Something you kind of said though that struck a chord about taking computer science, and you might not like computer science. I think a lot of people, they ask advice from mentors, teachers, parents, whoever it might be, and they ask advice on, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And sometimes the advice is easy to give, because realistically the person's asking you what to do because they're hoping you know them better than they know themselves.
That's huge.
And they're hoping you tell them what to do. They want you to make the decision for them. When you kind of ask the person in the mirror, because nobody spends more time with you than you, nobody knows you better than you. If you ask those hard questions, spend some time in the mirror, maybe even sit down and be quiet for a little bit and let your mind run away. Let it run away and let it kind of come to your own conclusions. I think you can find your own answers.
Absolutely.
I think you can find your own answers. Going from confidence now to the next step, which is taking action. Knowing ourselves, and I'll be a little vulnerable right now. Knowing myself is I'm a procrastinator. Like you mentioned working out in the mornings. How important is it when knowing yourself to not only hone in on those flaws, but accept those flaws?
That's good that you said flaws, right? Because a flaw to you is not a flaw to someone else. Hold on. Technical. Normally off the set fixing it. Right, but no, it's cool that you said flaw, right? Because flaw is a good word. It's put in that genre with like hustle. Kind of those words where they like have two meanings depending on how you kind of take it, right? Hustle can be negatively connotated all the time. Oh, I got hustled, right? However, you can hustle to become the best, right? And when someone says hustle, it can mean work. It can mean those sleepless nights, those the hours that you literally don't see, right? Same with flaw. A flaw to you may be a pro to someone else. So for you to know yourself, you're gonna know exactly how much you can handle, right? And that's gonna help you to determine your life and work balance. is huge when it comes to a work-life balance. A lot of people, are so overconsumed with what they think they want that they actually don't know what they want or how to get it, right? So we work this job to retire. Why do you retire?
To do what you want.
To become financially independent? Or
Sure,
what?
yeah.
So it kind of like, it just doesn't, it kind of upsets me a little bit when you can't, I guess, visualize yourself or attempt to see a change in your life, right? To be so, I guess, sure that the vehicle you're in now is the correct vehicle to get you where you want to go. If your ultimate vehicle is to retire, and there's a guy right over here who's starting a startup where he says, look, we work here for 5 years. The law of averages and the way the market's set up, we're going to retire in 5 years. However, your 9 to 5 is a lot more comfortable for you. Not a change.
And that's the big thing, though. I do want to, that word, comfortable, because knowing ourselves, I mean, we both went to high school, went to college, got a degree, and we're, in society, we're working, making our lives better day in and day out. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're like me, you didn't have this mindset freshman year of college, did you?
No, I didn't. But I came in there, I wanted to be a doctor, pediatrician.
Yeah?
Came in, wanted to be a pediatrician, had like about 2.5 weeks of classes with practice, with meetings. Walked back into my advisor. Hey man, don't want to do pre-med anymore. Like I can't do pre-med, play football, and have a social life. Like I can't do all of them. So I ended up asking him. I was like, hey, what's the next most lucrative career here? What's the next most career path here? He said I can either do business econ, which he said was about 50% of people do. You're either going to do comms, business econ, or another one. And he said, or you can do computer science, which about like 8% do.
Yeah.
Like there's no one there,
yeah.
right? So, I always grew up buying, selling stuff. Always, coding phones, rooting phones, jailbreaking them, stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, computer science sounds like it could be cool, So I get into my first class. It's me, the professor, and 5 other people.
That's it. There's no slacking off in that class.
Go to my next class. Me, the professor, and 6 other kids. Two of which came from the exact same class I just came from.
Seeing some familiar faces here.
Right?
Yeah, I know the struggle. I did computer science for 2 semesters.
Right? And it's just like everyone knows you on a personal basis.
Yeah.
But what that really did, I guess, having that choosing that career path, I think I know it made me become more independent. Strictly because I was doing what everyone didn't do in Furman. Like, and I noticed that when I became a computer science major, and all the professors were like, yeah, like, woo, like, I was like, why are y'all so happy? Like, people declare majors all the time. They're like, we don't get them often, nobody. We don't get them often. He's like, and you brought a friend too? Me and Rodney ended up declaring. Me, Rodney, and Butterbean, one of my best friends, Big Joe, we all ended up declaring together. We were like, look, let's football players, we're going to break the stereotype. We all can do computer science. It's not a big deal. We'll all take the classes together. We'll study together. It's not ended up happening, but we ended up doing that, and it's cool because, I look back at it, and it made you become so independent, and it made you, like, every single class had a lab.
It's a challenge,
from 2:30 to 4:30, which is time that you invest for no reason, technically, quote unquote, right? You go in there and you study, or you go in there and you work on problems. But it made me realize the actual value of an investment. I invested so much of my time in college, so I didn't have to out of college. There's so many people who go to grad school. You have a computer science degree, you're gonna get a job somewhere, and they're gonna train you on what they exactly want you to know. So I saw them more as an investments now versus being able to versus going to grad school, stuff like that.
What would you tell your 17-year-old self about college?
It depends. Am I still an athlete?
That's a great question, because, if you're an athlete,
if I'm an athlete, I'm going to college.
There's things to gain.
There's a lot of intangibles again.
There's a lot to gain from.
So much.
If
And
you're
I'm not saying
not-
that if I'm not an athlete, there's not so much to gain from. But knowing what I know now, it's a lot more about who you know versus what you know.
Yeah, and you made a good point before talking about going from pre-med
Mm-hmm.
to asking what the next lucrative position is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen a couple friends go into college, get a 4-year degree, and then they get out of school and then end up going to trade school
Mm-hmm.
to become a carpenter or something because they like working with their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, man, you could have skipped
Literally
those
wasted
4 years,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and just gone straight to trade school.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be doing what you're doing, just starting 2 years earlier.
Better, yeah. And that's the thing. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't go to college if I wasn't an athlete. But in the type of world we live in now, where
Mm-hmm.
it's extremely easy to start your own business, to create your own wave. And I don't want to say I don't need it because I think Furman helped to develop my mindset to where I can be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I can be independent.
It's almost like school versus education. School can
Man.
give you education, but
I
school
say
doesn't equal
Yeah, and I say
education.
knowledge versus education all the time too, or like being knowledgeable, right?
Sure.
So between me and you, what's like being knowledgeable? What would someone say being knowledgeable is?
If I think someone's knowledgeable, I think they know a lot of facts.
Okay.
I think some of that.
They know what it is.
Yeah, and I'm trying to understand your context in it
It's a
because
good question, right?
yeah,
So, and that's where someone saying knowledgeable or someone being smart. That individual he's pretty smart. He's a smart
Sure.
individual. Well, how would you, I guess, like deem him smart? What makes him smart? Is it the way he speaks? Is it the way he dresses? Is it his knowledge?
I'd say the way he speaks. For me, I would judge someone's intelligence on how they carry themselves.
Okay.
And I know we were talking about all these synonyms now: knowledge, education, intelligence. But if someone's smart, typically it's mainly because they say something that I think
It's smart.
few people
yeah.
know.
Mhm. And it's I ask you that because I don't know, I'm a little different. Like I don't read as many books as some people tell me I should. But I'll read a lot of articles, or I'm always on my app, always on apps, Appy Geek, Apple News, all sort of news apps, because I've found that being knowledgeable when it comes to the person you're speaking to is how well you relate to their past life experiences. And now if you can relate to that person's past life experiences and essentially make them comfortable, when someone's comfortable around you, that's when they begin to,
Open
what's
up.
the word? Yeah, open up, but it's also a compliment you. That's the word, compliment.
Yeah.
People get comfortable around you, they seem to value a little bit more. So being knowledgeable, in my opinion, is how well you relate to each person that you run into in your life. Now, how you prepare yourself to be knowledgeable for those individuals is up to you. Whether you choose to read an entire book or you speak to your mentor about a book that he read, and he said, these are my favorite 3 points. You go do research on those 3 points versus the entire book and read an extra 2 articles. So now you can speak to your mentor's mentor on an aspect that you may have not had the opportunity to get to speak to him about. But that mentor has saved you an hour to be able to go do your research, to be able to relate to that extra one person where shaking his hand could change your life.
Yeah. And then going back and bringing it all full circle, knowing the way you learn, knowing the way you retain information, how you can share that information, knowing the parts about you that will relate to somebody else. All comes from knowing yourself first
Knowing
and foremost.
yourself. It's crazy. Knowing what you want, not what other people want for you. It's what you want.
So while we wrap this up and wanting to give some actual actionable advice for any of our listeners out there and anyone that's tuning in, how do you start to know yourself?
It's a great question. That's a great question. I like to meditate. Honestly, I like to meditate. Sometimes it's in silence. Sometimes it's background music. Sometimes it's walking. But I would say when it comes to starting, know why. Ultimately know why you do what you do. And then know where. Right?
Yeah.
and I got chill bumps thinking about my where, because like I'm gonna be a millionaire. Like it's just it's in due time. But know your where, because if you don't know where you want to go, you cannot plan to get there. And it's okay for your plan to change, but if you don't have the plan, how can it change?
I always use the GPS analogy, where a lot of people know where they want to go, but they don't first fully accept where they're at, or they see where they're at and they don't know where they want to go. A GPS needs 2 points, where you are and where you're trying to go. And if you're missing one of those, the GPS can't take you anywhere. And to your point, even if you know where you are and where you want to go, and you get off track a little bit, the GPS can reroute.
It'll bring you back.
It'll find a couple of those side streets.
Right?
And if you got the good GPS, if you got Waze, they'll let you know which roads are already
traffic.
closed. Shout out to Waze.
Right.
But
up.
Andre, man, we know you're in the middle of the 30-day challenge. I mean, this will probably be airing, and folks will probably be listening to this towards the mid to end section of October. But where can people find you, follow you, and catch up on your journey, and maybe join you on the finding themselves journey?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Andrej Suttles page. Follow me, my website, Suttlesolutions. I mean, you can get some information on there. But honestly, if you're listening to this, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you. Trust me when I say I make time for things that are important to me, and people are important to me who want to better themselves.
Yeah.
I prioritize, not great, but I prioritize well, and we will make time. So, yeah, man, I just appreciate the opportunity again.
Yeah.
I love doing this, man.
Yeah, this is a good time always, man. And like the little change of scenery, we got some action. People
Yeah,
walking by. How you doing?
Came in during happy hour.
Yeah. Guys, thanks so much for listening to No Rain, No Rainbows podcast, and watching if you're watching on YouTube. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Remember, it all starts with learning who you are. Ask yourself those tough questions. Meditate. Andre and myself both love to meditate. It's definitely a good practice to maybe ask yourself some of those tough questions. And when you have that, confidence will shine through. You'll know yourself better. You'll better relate to others. And things will just will actually fall into place. Hard to explain, but they just will.
They will.
You know?
Yeah, it literally is.
And if they
it's
don't,
like the blind faith aspect.
Sure. If they don't call us, we'll figure out what's going on. But definitely, guys, go out there, hustle. Everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the joy without a little bit of pain. Go out there and grow.
Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.